Here's the screen. Okay, so this is specifically about the Best Businesswomen Awards. However, there will be information you can glean from this to use for other awards, but always check their requirements, their stuff, but because this is very specific to these my awards. But I'm sure there will be stuff that you can pick up. So this relates to 2026 entry. I'm going to cover the categories, an overview of the questions, and some real strong tips on how to answer the questions, and some information about evidence as well. So I can't cover every single question in every single category because we'd be here all day. But I'm going to give you a strong overview to help you. Right, so let's talk about the categories first. So we have categories that are specifically for different industries. So marketing and PR, coaching, which can be life coaching or business coaching, creative. Now that can be that you work B2B. So let's say, for example, you might be a commercial photographer, or you might be B2C. So you work with consumers and you make something or you do something in the creative field. Now, if you're not sure which one your business fits into industry wise, get in touch and we can give you some advice, because we also have networking group, children and families, animal services, and health, wellness, and beauty. These sectors are predominantly female dominated, which is why we've chosen all of these sectors. And we do swap in and out sometimes some of the industries every year. So we have two categories which are a little bit more general. So if your business doesn't fit into any of the ones at the top, then have a look at business services. If you are B2B, that could be the right category for you. So for example, if you are a marketing business, you really want to enter the marketing category, okay? But if you've got an HR business, then that would come under business services. So that just gives you one example. And then you've got best consumer. So anything that isn't covered in those industry specific categories, then that would be B2C. So we've had all kinds of businesses in that over the years, from people who sell products to people who own a shop, or, it could be anything. It can be people who trade online, business to consumer. So again, if you're not sure, then just get in touch and we will help you select the right category. And then we have our charity champion category. Now, that is very strictly for registered charities and CICs only. So you can only enter that category if that applies to you. And then we have categories that are open to all business types. So, for example, best new business. That is for any business that has started trading within the last 3 years. Sometimes, if you have been trading coming up for 3 years and you enter an industry specific category as well, depending on how well you're doing, you could actually do quite well. But I really wouldn't advise you to put a new business that's maybe only a year's trading into one of the industry specific categories as well, because you are going to be up against businesses who have been trading a lot longer than you. But again, come and talk to me and I can talk through your individual business and help you make an assessment whether it is worth doing that. But generally, best new business if you've just started trading within the last 3 years. If you've only started trading in the last few weeks, personally, I would glean the information from today's workshop and enter next year. Again, because you're going to be up against people who have been trading for a while and have got that trajectory so far. So I would say a year. Some businesses who've been trading for 6 months are already doing very well and can prove what they've achieved and have got really strong forecasting, but they're the exception. So I would just have a chat with me if you're not sure, but generally about a year to 18 months, you're going to have quite a lot under your belt by then and a lot to talk about. And then the next category is best customer service. So if you are a business getting really good reviews on Google, LinkedIn, Checkatrade, or any of those websites, and you can really prove how strong your customer service is, then I would recommend that category because I think it's a really good award to have, whether it's a silver or a gold. It's a really good recognition. Um, and for some businesses, that's really what they want to be known for because they want to distinguish themselves in their industry. So have a think about that one. That's open to any type of business. There's no restrictions on that at all. Most inspiring businesswoman is our biggest category. It is the one that gets the most entries every single year, and it is in their hundreds. So the thing to stand out here is the category is called Most Inspiring Business Woman. So we are talking about what have you done with your business? How have you evolved your business? And also, what have you given back to others? What have you given to your industry? Really, what makes you a trailblazer and what makes you inspirational? So we get things like people enter this category and say things like, oh, my son got into Oxford. That it doesn't make you inspiring. That's your son's achievement. We have very strange things that people put in this category in their entries. So really stop and think about what makes you inspirational and what makes you stand out. Because we are looking for standout women. And, it's an incredible accolade to have. I always think that. Best business, you must have been trading at least 5 years to enter this. Strong trading is really, really necessary for this. Strong customer service. You need to be at the top of your game in your industry. Or it could be in the location where your business is. But we get a lot of entries for this as well. And it's about what makes your business stand out. And it's all the elements that you have that that if you're doing stuff again to support others and your business is doing well and you've got good growth plans to continue growing the business, there's all the elements that make up a best business. Best green business, open to any business type that can prove green credentials. There are very specific category questions for that, set by Sharon Gaffney, who is a green, I don't know what her actual title is. I should have checked that before I came on the call, but she has lots of green credentials, works with businesses on their carbon footprint. So she set all the questions for that, and it's all around what difference your business is making in terms of the carbon footprint and the saving of energy and how your business is kind to the environment and kind to the planet. Best solopreneur is people who are working on their own. And we brought this category in a few years ago. It's very popular as well. And it's really about people who are working for themselves, but really are making that difference as well and doing incredible things with their business. Lifetime achievement, I think we brought this in the year we were 10 years old, actually. So about 3 years ago. And this again recognises women who have been trading for longer than 15 years and have made an impact with their business and their industry. And it's kind of I think it's a really lovely award to have. Particularly again, if you've worked in an industry for a long time and you've really got that traction and that kind of reputation, seriously think about that one because it's a really lovely award, I think, to have. And then we have our Best Female Leader category, which we bought in last year and it was really, really popular. And it's our only category open to women who work in a business as well as women who own their own business. So that is the only category that we have because our awards generally are for women running their own business or a partner in a business, but we like to recognise women who are great leaders as well. So that category is for them, as well as you can enter it if you own your own business, but we've opened it up to employees as well. You can be in partnership with other people when you enter our awards, but you do have to have a financial stake in the business. With the charity champion category, we ideally recognise the women who started the charity. However, it's not an actual rule. As long as you've been running the charity for a significant amount of time, potentially you can enter that category. The thing with the charity champion category is the winner of that category is fundraised for the following year. So there is quite a lot at stake with that. It's the only category that there is no fee to enter, We don't charge charities to enter, and we also give charities a free ticket to come to the event. The gold winner, as I said, we fundraise for them the following year. So again, it's quite a highly contested category. We get a lot of entries, as you can imagine. So it is about demonstrating those results in order to get to the final. So you can only enter 2 categories. So what I suggest is, when I talk to people about this, is that you go for something that's generic, like solopreneur, customer service, most inspiring, best business, etc., depending on which one of those you fit into. And then you go for an industry specific category or one of the general ones for business services or best consumer. Um, you know, it is a choice that you have to make, and the questions are not identical for every category. So you are going to have to do some work. For example, if you entered customer service and then an industry specific category, it's not the same entry. So it's not a cut and paste. But the stuff you gather together, you will be able to use for other awards. And it will be a good opportunity for you to really examine all your processes and everything in your business. So we're not an awards where you can just click, 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 click and enter your business into like 10 categories. That's not how it works. We are very, very specific here at the Best Businesswomen Awards. So you do need to look at which categories are you eligible for. And also, as I'm going to go on to talk about now, is which categories align with your industry and your achievements and your business goals at the end of the day. Because as I said earlier, you might want to be known for really good customer service. I spoke to a business not that many weeks ago who was struggling because a lot of businesses had popped up in her area that did something very similar to her. And she'd been around for 10 years and she'd never done awards. And a business coach had suggested that awards would be a really good way of her differentiating herself within the local competition. Um, and our conversation revolved around the fact that she had something like 150 Google reviews, I think. It was very high. And, customer service awards would be really good for her. So it's about you doing that piece of work to think, right, what do I want? Do I want to be known as an industry expert? Do I want to be really well known in my area? Do I want to be known for customer service? Do I want to be known as an inspirational businesswoman? Do I want best business because I've got a great team? And I want to showcase the business as a whole. So really, it's about you sitting there thinking, why do I want to win a Best Businesswomen Award? What is important to me, and what category is going to align with my business goals? And that will be different for all of you. So I'm going to talk you through the award framework that we have, and it really is a powerful structure to help you create standout entries. You need more than just good intentions to win an award, one of our awards as well. Some awards are easier to win than others, and we have a very strict judging criteria and process, and it works for us, and we've had it since we started back in 2015. And so really thinking about structure, clarity is so, so important. So I'm going to go through a lot of these individually with you and give you loads of tips. And I think it's about, if you remember the word award and the things that those letters stand for. So A is about assessing and brainstorming your brilliance. And I'm going to talk you through how to do that in a minute. It's about, for W, weighing up and researching the right awards and categories for you. Because as I said, you might get to the end of this presentation and think the Best Businesswomen Awards is not what I want to be doing. I hope it is, but it is about weighing up the right categories for you and the right awards for your business. And then thinking about answering the questions properly and strategically, which we're going to go through today. And thinking about your results, because they are the most important element of your entry. And then your distinction. So D for distinction. What makes your business stand out? Because most of us have a business that other people are doing in some way, shape, or form. It's very rare to come across a business that is very, very unique and nobody else is doing it. So it's about how you stand out. and your distinctions, because we all bring something different to our business, to our industry. So our award writing formula is really about the brainstorm, which I'm going to talk through in a minute. And then once you've worked through the brainstorm, it's thinking about jotting down the answers to the questions in a rough format. So that might be sitting doing it on a laptop or just with a pen and paper, and then formulating those answers into a Word document. And I always tell everybody, and I stress this is so important, work on a Word document first, because that gives you the opportunity to reread it, to reflect on it, and to ask somebody else to read it. And then when you're happy with it and you feel like you've really answered the question properly and you've got everything together, then finally sit and upload it onto the website. Don't be tempted to sit and slap it together and do it on the website without saving it, because there's so many reasons, but you might make mistakes. For one, you'll probably leave things out. But the most important thing is that if you've got that document that you've done for the Best Businesswomen Awards, we are one of the toughest awards to get through. Make no mistake about that. And therefore, you will have that document to come back to and use for other awards. Or you might want to enter again another time, and then you can go in and adapt the entry and update it. And once you get that formula of an award entry that is starting to get you recognised and getting you through to finals and winning slots, you've got a good document there that you can use. If you don't get selected either for our awards or other awards, we give feedback. So you've got that. You can immediately email that to us and we can have a look at it. We can access them in the system for a certain amount of time after the awards are finished. But it's a good document for you to have. And I think, being able to send it to somebody else and get them to sense check it is so important. So never really work on it live on the website. Do it on a Word document and then copy and paste it through. So I'm going to send you the brainstorm document after this, and that document is going to help you gain clarity and focus. And I'm going to go through a few of the elements of it in a minute with you. Even if you have entered awards before and haven't been successful, then this is a good activity to do. And if you've never entered awards before, then you must do this activity first. Because I think the trouble is that if we go attack the questions straight away, you might miss off things. You might not detail things that really could make that difference for you. So the brainstorm that I came up with quite a number of years ago now has been invaluable to so many people. I get so much great feedback on it. So I think working through that first is so important. So the first thing on the document talks you through the reflection piece about your business, and there are prompts for service-based business and for product-based businesses. So these questions here have been taken directly off that document. So you need to think around why clients come to you. What results do you achieve? What qualifications do you have? And if you've got a product or service, a product rather than a service, what research did you do and how does your product solve a problem? What niche is it filling within the marketplace, and what endorsements or certifications your products have? So we get a lot of people claiming about celebrity endorsements, but our judges do know that celebrity endorsements can be bought. So be very wary about using that as a main linchpin on an entry to do with a product. I'm not saying it's not relevant, but it could be part of the entry, but don't make that the linchpin. So the first part of the brainstorm is about a reflection, and then you think about your customer care and the things that you do to look after your customers and why people come back to you. Thinking about how you manage clients when things go wrong and what you do that your competitors don't do. And that could be from the onboarding process through the aftercare. It will depend on what your business does. So the brainstorm document helps you distill this information down. And then testimonials, reviews, and case studies. You should be getting these on a regular basis anyway. Forget about award entries for a moment. These are so important. They should be part of your sales process. So you should be asking people for a review when they've worked with you. Sometimes you might need to incentivize them to leave you a review. Um, and sometimes you have to pester them to do it. But, if you notice all of the big companies, you will automatically get emails from restaurants and hotels and even train companies asking you about that experience. And that's what you need to be doing as a point at the end of a process. Once you've worked with somebody, you send a request for a review and a link to where you want them to leave it. And be specific about what you want them to say, because reviews that just say, oh yeah, Jenny was great to work with, doesn't really tell people a lot. So you really want to sort of expand it, give them maybe an example of the sorts of review that you want from them, ask them to address specific questions. So really think about that, and that should be part of your sales process. Then when you come to do award entries, you have these reviews that you can showcase to the judges, and it is so important. Now, as I know that some of you will have a business where this is difficult, because if you're working with people who sensitive stuff, could be health, could be, you're a coach where you're dealing with people who've been traumatized in some way, shape, or form. Have a chat with me, because there are other ways that you can get proof about how good you are from clients. Sometimes we've had people submit videos which have been done from the back of somebody's head, but that's their voice talking about their experience of working with somebody. It could be that you just do a case study. We appreciate that not all businesses will have lots of online reviews because of the sensitivity of what they do. And obviously, we can make sure that the judges in your entry, not we, when you do your entry, just make that point. And I think the judges always understand that for some people, that's not always an easy thing to get. And then part of your brainstorm will be thinking about your business growth. So what support you've had to build your business. Details of your staff should be included in any award entry, associates that you work with, things like your business plan, and what your growth plans are as well for the next few years. It's good to see things like your marketing tactics in an award entry, and what your goals are and how you've performed against the goals maybe that you set yourself last year. And it is also important to include some financials as well. Ideally, the last 2 years worth of accounts are really good to see. And if you've got a new business and you don't have that trading history, then projections of where you think the business will go. And then thinking around all the charity and pro bono work you do. So how you support others in your community, if you support a charity, a project, or a cause, and what voluntary work you might do or that your team's doing. So really part of your brainstorm is thinking about all of this stuff and getting it all down so you don't miss anything out. Right, so once you've done your brainstorm and you've decided on the category that you're going to enter, or categories, then you start to look at the questions. Now, the questions are on our website. You can have a look at them. In each category, the questions are shown. So as I said, I'm not going to go through every single category, but what I want to do is give you a real overview of tackling those questions. Now, each question has a word count for a reason. And that's because judges need to be able to measure you against somebody else. And if we didn't have word counts, people would waffle, people wouldn't be succinct. And what we also find is they lack structure if there's no word count. So some awards will ask you to do 1,000-word essay, for example. I've seen that quite a few times. But we prefer to go down this route because it makes it easy. There's scores for each question. I don't give those scores out because each category has its own questions and their own scoring. But I'll give you a bit of a vague kind of idea. The other thing is I've had lots of people copy me, copy how I do stuff, which is very annoying. But at the end of the day, each question carries marks between 10 and 20 marks per question. So that gives you a bit of a feel for, it's about answering the question, including the information, and sharing your achievements. So the more detail that you give, the higher your marks are going to be. So the first question on most of the categories is about the business. So you can, if you're entering two categories and they both have this question, you can copy and paste that question. That's perfectly fine. And it's up to 250 words. And we're asking you just to share a bit about your business. So an overview, the products or services that you offer, and what made you start it, what research did you do in the case of a new business, and what types of clients you work with. So at this stage, you're giving the judge a bit of an overview of your business. And then how your business differs from its competition. So what is different about your business to others in your industry, and what is your purpose and mission? So again, you are talking from a point of that you know and understand your local competition. And we often get quite vague answers to that question. And actually, you want to be very specific, because people who can share that they identified there was a gap for their business, or that they have brought something into the industry that wasn't previously there, or that, you just have a very different way of doing things. You need to get that into that question. The next question is about why you're passionate about what you do. Most people don't just wake up one day and decide what they're doing and that they're going to set up a business. They come at it from a place of knowledge, whether that's personal experience of something, or they've worked in that industry, maybe in corporate, and they've decided they want to set up their own business. So really what you're trying to communicate is what drives you, and also share what experience or qualifications that you have in your industry. Now, it could be you are qualified by experience, and that's perfectly fine. Or it might be that you have had to sit qualifications in order to do what you're doing. So you need to share that with the judges so they understand what qualifications you've had to do. And then what activities have been instrumental in the growth of your business? This is kind of the marketing question, really. So share examples of what's helped grow your business. So for example, it might be your website. It might be that you run paid ads, that you've got clients from social media. It might be events, could be networking, could be you have been a speaker or been part of industry events, attending those, or, it can be anything that you feel has driven customers your way. So I guess what the judges are looking for are people who are active, who are innovative, and I would share some specific examples on that question of what you've done and why those activities have been successful for you. And you can also back that up in your evidence as well. How do you deliver great customer service is pretty much on most of the category questions. So this is around what you do to ensure that your business has customers that keep coming back or referring people to you. Because you may have a goods or services that people will only ever buy once, but ideally you want to have people that have bought your goods or services and refer you on to others. How do you manage clients when things go wrong? Also, that's really important. We do get people who say nothing's ever gone wrong, but if it did, this is what I would do. And we have people that have given us examples of when something did go wrong and what they did to rectify it. And I think, again, some people have started a business based on a bad experience within their own industry and thought, well, this is terrible. I can do this better myself, and have set up a business. So they're fully aware of what their competitors don't do that they do. Or we have people that have actually gone out and kind of done a bit of mystery shopping and realize what their competitors are doing that they're not. And they seek to make sure that they're delivering over and above. Now, we get a lot of people who enter the best customer service category that put things like, oh, yeah, we call clients back within 24 hours. Well, there are what we would describe as industry norms. Okay, what what would be the basic level of service that people would expect to receive from a business? Okay. And then there's exemplary service. So this category for best customer service is about businesses that are going over and above. Yeah. So there are specific questions for best customer service. But as a general rule, if you're just entering one of the industry specific categories, you do still want to think about stuff that you're doing that makes you stand out, even if you're not entering the best customer service category. So if you haven't done a customer survey for a while, now could be a good time to do one. There's plenty of platforms out there where you can set up a survey for free and send it out to people and just offer a prize in a draw to everybody that completes it. And then you've got a survey that you can upload into an award entry, which is really powerful. So I would suggest something like that is really important if you are going to enter the best customer service category, because you really need strong proof that you deliver really good service to your clients. How have you coped with challenges in your business over the last year? So we just want to understand how you've worked through problems, issues. You know, the market at the moment is very volatile, depending on which industry you're in. So it's a good way of us understanding how you're coping with those challenges, how you're working through them. And, you know, you may have reached out and worked with a business coach. You may have been doing some additional marketing. You may have grown another service within your business. It will be unique to you, the answer to this question, but you really sit and think about the things that you are doing to push your business forwards. And what does your business do to give back to others? As an awards, we are very passionate about recognizing businesses that give back to others. I personally believe that all businesses should be giving back to others. I'm 28 years into my business. I've raised a lot of money and a lot of support for charities and good causes over the years. And, you know, I find the time, and I don't get it when businesses say, oh, I haven't had the time to do anything. There are things you can do which don't actually cost you any time. You can say, well, I'm going to donate 1% of my profits to a charity, for example, at the very least. But what we love to see are businesses that are doing that pro bono work, supporting things in their community or in their industry. Maybe they're mentoring, having people in on work experience. I mean, there are so many things. It will take me too long to list them. But really be specific about what it is that you're doing and share some evidence of that as well. And then the financials, some people get a bit sniffy about this. It is not an examination forensically of your business accounts. It is just the judges can determine that this is a business that is viable, that it is making a profit, and that you are paying yourself. Therefore, it's not a hobby. So we don't ask for, you know, details like where you're spending your money in your business. We just want a copy of your previous year's trading, which you will get a summary from your accountant. Or if you use online software like Xero, for example, you can download a profit and loss account off of that and put that in. Without any financial information, your entry won't be considered. It won't get through to the next round of judging. So it won't be put in front of our judging panel. So entries that don't have questions completed properly, or don't have evidence, or don't have their finances in, you know, it's not fair on our judges to put those entries in front of them. So we do a pre-screen process. And we do get people that upload a blank sheet of paper on that question. So, because you have to upload something on that question in order to get the entry through the system. We probably had about 3 of those last year, and they just don't progress any further. So yeah, that's really important to note. And then share your business achievements over the past year. So when you look at what you've done in the past year, what makes you swell with pride? And that could be another award that you've won. It could be other things that you've done with your business. It could be anything that's really personal to you and that you know, feel really proud about. So that gives you a flavour of the main sets of questions that we've got on most of the industry specific ones. The profit question for networking group is and financials is not needed because a lot of people run a networking group as a sideline to their existing business. If you are running it as a business and you've got those figures, put them in. But networking group is mainly around the difference that particular networking group is making. All the other industry specific categories are fairly similar to these questions. Then we asked for a business bio. The business bio is up to 50 words, and that goes into the program. There's no marks associated with that, but you do need to make sure that you put that information in there and read it back, because that is what will go in the program if you're selected. And we also use it on social media posts, things like that. So just summarize your business in 50 words. Now you can upload 4 files of evidence in your entry in addition to your financials, and anything that you state in your entry should be backed up by evidence. So create your evidence into files and label with the question it relates to. And this makes it really easy for the judges to find the information. And if there is information and explanations you can't fit into the word count, you can use your additional evidence and add a document in about it. But make sure you're not repeating yourself. So if you've put it in the entry, you don't need to put another document in the evidence about it. So just make sure you're not doing that. You can't upload video to our entries, but you can add a link to a video. So it could be that the video is on YouTube, Vimeo, or your website. But just make sure the judges can access that, because we've had a few cases where people have put links and then they're protected links and they haven't been able to look at them. And we don't have time to go back to people. So it's your responsibility to make sure that you put information they can access. And as I said earlier, video can be really good for customer reviews or explaining your business. But what I would stress, it is not a substitute for answering the question. So we've had people ask me, oh, well, I'm not very good at writing. Can I just do a video response to my questions? The answer is no. So you might need to find somebody to help you write it. And you can put video in if you wanted to supplement what you've said in the written entry. As I've mentioned a few times already, reviews, don't just put pages and pages of reviews. I would pick 4 or 5 good ones that really describe the help your business has delivered, put them into one document, and then signpost the judges where they can read more. So just send them the link on that page to maybe Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever your reviews are. But pick the best ones to put into your entry. Case studies are slightly different. I mean, they're more in depth, and they could include a review from your client. And again, for some of you in coaching and in health, for example, these things are really important because they really illustrate to a judge how you've taken somebody from where they are when they arrive working with you to where they finished when they stopped working with you. So you can put those together. You might want to put 3 or 4 of case studies in there, depends on what you do and what you're trying to showcase. But really it's showcasing the support that you've given them and the work that you've done with them and how that's made a difference. If you've supported a charity, project or industry, something within your industry, then share an email from them confirming your contribution. That's a really good piece of evidence. Yeah, it's nice to have photos, obviously, with pictures of check presentations and things like that. But it's quite good if you've actually got an email to back up something, if you've worked on a project or given your time or done something to support somebody. You can pop that into your evidence. Photos are great to have, but they're not really the linchpin of evidence. We get a lot of people that overload their evidence with lots of photos that largely aren't really relevant. So think about the relevance. Befores and after photos are quite good. if you have a business where you're going to see a visual transformation. Um, so really have a think about the relevance of those photos. I mean, I talk about this a lot. We had one year where a dog groomer put in pictures of a dog grooming table. And I talk about this a lot because it's a really good example. But what she could have done was put some pictures of the before and afters of the dogs with some testimonials from clients. Because as one judge said, I'd expect a dog groomer to have a dog grooming table. So think about that. People put pictures of the outside of their premises. Um, Again, is that relevant? Probably not. Um, so think about really the relevance of any photos that you put in and make sure they're labeled so people can understand. On YouTube, there's a video that I did last year on evidence, and there is a link to a Canva file that was set up by Marie-Louise O'Neill, who entered our awards a few years ago, and she's a Canva expert. Just interviewed her actually for the podcast. So that file is still there, and you could still use it as a template. And I'll send it out again, I think, with the follow-up email from this this session. Then press. If you've had press, magazines, online, whatever, you may have been a guest on a radio show or been on TV even. So add copies of any press that you've received, and you can put that as part of your evidence as well. And then depending on what your business is and what you're doing, graphs, charts, infographics can be useful to show relevant information. Obviously be as creative as you'd like to be with your evidence. You really want your business to shine. Um, but make sure whatever you're uploading makes sense and is properly labeled. So using AI, AI is a tool and it's not a shortcut to winning. So if you rely on it too heavily or use it incorrectly, it will actually weaken your entry rather than strengthen it. AI often produces polished but generic content, and the result is your entry will have overused phrases and safe, predictable language, and it really does lack personality. What the judges saw last year was that there were entries that even had the same wording from different people. So be very careful because AI doesn't really know the challenges you faced or the emotions behind your journey and the important turning points in your business. And these are the elements that make your entry powerful. If you remove the human element out of an entry, you remove the connection. And I'm not suggesting that you don't use AI at all. And in fact, Denise, who's here today, has an AI tool which she can pop into the chat for you called Winner AI. But, at the end of the day, I would advise you to use it for ideation, but don't use it to write your entries completely from scratch. Judges are really good at spotting it, and you really want your entry to be about you, not some generic comments that everybody else is saying. I mean, our rules are you have to answer the question. That's what's really important. And I'm not suggesting that an AI cannot answer the question for you. But as I've highlighted, what you'll often see is that actually it doesn't give you the best possible answer that you could write yourself. So have a think about that and have a look at Denise's tool that she's put together as well. I would say clarity is the most important thing. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn about this last week. Clear, concise language, strong opening and closing statements, checking that you're not talking fluff and nonsense, as one of the judges calls it, or a couple of the judges call it that. Fluff and repetition. You want your answer to be really clear and really make your key points stand out. And when you've done your first draft, ask yourself and get someone else to check it for you. Is this easy to read? Is my message crystal clear? And does my impact shine through? It has to tick all of those boxes before you submit it. So our judges are all accomplished business owners. Most of them have won awards themselves as well. And many of them have been judging awards for a long, long time. So these tips have come directly from them, and there might be some of them here today as well. So if there is, and we've got some time at the end, we can get some feedback from them. But it's about making the submission interesting for them to read, not confusing them with jargon or facts and figures which don't make sense. That's a big bugbear for the judges. And when we look at the comments afterwards, they'll often say, well, these figures do not make any sense, or I have no clue what this entrant was talking about because this whole entry is full of jargon that I don't understand. Always be honest and don't embellish or bring personal circumstances into your entry unless they have a direct relevance to your business. You know, it is sad when people get sick and they have terrible illnesses and family trauma and tragedy, but that is not going to win you a business award. It is about your business achievements. And really, I would just want to stress that because we get all kinds of stuff put into award entries about personal circumstances. And as I said earlier, the achievements of people's children. One entry last year talked about the fact that their child was in the Olympic Games, but it wasn't relevant to their business. So yeah, don't put things like that in there. That's your children's achievements, not yours. Now let's talk through some generic statements that we see people put in entries, and these are absolute examples of what we see every single year. So people put, we support a number of charities. That's an answer. We support a number of charities. That's not a good enough answer. What you want to be thinking about is who you support, why, and what you've done. You know, because support can mean loads of different things. So that's too generic. Another generic one is, we know we are the best in our industry. Well, how do you know that? You know, that is a very bold statement to make. Our customer service is outstanding. We get this a lot. People put that. That is a generic statement. It means nothing. I have faced many challenges, but I've overcome them. Well, what challenges were they? How did you overcome them? And again, really, it's about making sure this is relevant to the business. And I am a passionate leader and I work hard to inspire my team. Well, how do you do that and why? You know, so there are some examples. I could probably sit here and give hundreds of examples, but if a sentence doesn't say anything specific, then it doesn't belong in an award entry. It needs to be specific because you have to stand out. Don't waste words. Really make sure that you have answered the question and don't repeat the question in the answer. We see that a lot as well, and that's a waste of words. And also, if you've made a point in one question about something, you don't need to repeat it anywhere else because they will have seen it and read it. So make sure you don't do that as well. So we have this year, I think, 30 judges, but last year we had 28 judges from a variety of business backgrounds and industries, and all the judges received training and an information pack on each on each category, and they all have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay. If a judge knows somebody in a category, they have to declare it, and we give them a different category. They don't get a category if they know somebody, because that makes it fair. Most judges will do 2 to 3 categories. Each entry is seen by 3 judges independently, who score the answer to each question with the information you have supplied and the evidence that you've put in the entry. In addition, they can award up to 10 wow points to one entry in that category. And this is what separates the people at the top, okay? And this obviously is going to be based on their view and the entrant's business achievements, the customer care that you're doing with your clients, the contribution to your industry and your community, whether that's your local community or wider community. So this generally sifts out and, you know, will be the difference potentially to a gold or a silver or being selected and not selected. So the scores are then added up and the entries with the most points are selected to be finalists in that category. The person with the most points gets the gold. And then all the finalists in that category receive a silver award. So we give awards to everybody who is selected. In the case of a tie, we refer it back to our head judge, who is Roma, who would make the final decision. So she will go back through the 2 entries that have tied, and she will have a proper look and a deep dive and come back to me with her answer. And she adjudicates all the scoring as well. So some categories will have more finalists than others, simply because that we have more people that enter and more people that qualify. There is no voting. Voting is a popularity contest, as far as I'm concerned. There's no place for voting in any awards. That's a list building exercise for the person organising those awards. It's a total nonsense. So don't be hoodwinked into any awards that ask you to get votes, because it's just ridiculous. We don't do interviews. Some awards do, but we get a huge amount of entries. We have a lot to get through, and our judges are already giving their time for free. So I feel like interviews would be another sort of layer of stuff that they would have to do, and also trying to make sure people are available on certain dates and times. I've seen awards that have said, if you're not available on this particular day to come for an interview, then you'll be disqualified. I find that a bit bizarre. So if you do want to put a video in that showcases you as a person and talks through some elements of your business, you can do that. You can put a video in. Of course you can. A link to a video, sorry. You could have it on a private YouTube link or private Vimeo link. Just make sure that the settings allow the person who's got the link to read it, to watch it. So those are the main kind of criteria around our judging system. What I would say is, we've got just under 2 months to our deadline, which is the 10th of June at 6 o'clock. We don't extend our awards. We never have, we never will. There's a number of reasons for that. One is we've already had lots of entries in already. And if I start extending it, that's not respectful, is it, to the people who have got their act together and got their entry in on time? I think extending awards is very disrespectful, and it's not something that I've ever done. It really irritates me when awards do that. And, we launch our awards early enough that if people want to enter, then they can get their entry done and in on time. I get people who go, oh, well, my child was ill, or my dog died, or I've had loads of things, but there isn't an exception. You need to get your entry done in by 6 o'clock on the 10th of June. You've got plenty of time to do it. And if you miss out, then you'll have to enter in 2027. If you do your brainstorm, and I will send you that document after this call, and gather your information together, write your answers in draft form, put your evidence together, and then when you've got yourself all ready, and recheck everything and proofread it, and then get it submitted when you're all done and dusted. Now, I would aim for a week ahead of the deadline. And the reason I would say that to people is because if you leave it till the deadline day and your Wi-Fi crashes, or something does happen in your life that prevents you from doing it, then you've missed it, and you might have done quite a lot of work. And we get calls the week after the awards, in fact, sometimes up until the end of June, of people saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get my entry submitted in time. Can I send it to you? The answer is always no, because we close on that Wednesday at 6. We'll spend a couple of days sorting the entries out. Then it's going over to the judges. And once it's gone there, that's it. It's already starting to be judged. So we can't take entries that come in 2 weeks later. It's not fair on the people who, as I said, who have submitted on time. So also, when you are working on our website, as I've said already, we don't advise completing the entry straight onto the website. I would get it on a Word document. But if you are midway through and you need to save the entry, you must enter your email address or save the link. This is a secure server that we use. We're not using Google Forms like a lot. Oh God, that's another bugbear of mine. Awards that use Google Forms. We've got a secure server because this is your data and your information, and we're very hot on the security side of it. So you get a link emailed to you, and the link expires after 30 days as well. So you have to go back into it and work on it and refresh it and get the new link if you don't finish it. So you must do this, because if you don't, that what you've done will be lost and there's nothing I can do about it. So if you want the link via email, you put your email address in and it sends you a link, or you can save it. It will give you the option to save it, but I'll probably do both. And just be mindful of the fact that after 30 days, if the entry has not been submitted, it expires off our system and I cannot retrieve it. There's nothing I can do. Okay. So why entries don't make the final? So generally, it's not because it's a terrible business. It's because you haven't answered the question properly and you haven't put in enough detail. You know, don't be tempted to copy and paste stuff off your website. We see that a lot as well. It can be a lack of evidence. So you've said things and you haven't backed it up with evidence. It can be repetition. It can be that you've entered the wrong category. So we often see that somebody's not on mute. Make sure you're all on mute. That's better. Right. It can be that you've entered the wrong category, you know, and we're dealing with quite a high volume of entries, and we can't check everything, you know. We do our best if it's early enough and we go back to people in the early stage, and I'm talking about now. But in that last couple of weeks, we don't have the time to be going back to people going, we think you've entered the wrong category. If it's early enough and we spot it, we will often tell people. But we don't have the time nearer the time. Lack of passion, sometimes that just doesn't come across in the entry. And, you know, remember that awards are a competition. They aren't, you know, we are not what I call bums on seats awards. So we don't have long lists of 25, 30 finalists. Again, I find that quite laughable sometimes when I see it. That's just ridiculous. And we don't do that either. So not everyone's going to get shortlisted. And you pay a fee to enter our awards. It's £39 plus VAT. And that money, we bought the fee in a few years ago because we just got thousands, I kid you not, thousands of entries when it was free, most of which were not completed properly. And we still have to process all of those. When we bought in the fee, we get in the hundreds of entries now, and that's all manageable. And that enables us to let the charities come free of charge. And it also means that we can give you feedback on your entry. So come October, after the award final, we will give you feedback on your entry if you're not successful. And that can help you for future entries, not just for our awards, but for others as well. We don't give it until October because we are trying to then get an event together for 300 to 400 people once the finalists are announced. And then often after the awards, finalists who become silver or gold winners might want feedback on their entries. So we do what's called the feedback fortnight, which is after the awards. And the awards are on the 16th of October this year. So the feedback fortnight will be the 2 weeks after that. So you just email us in that 2 week period and we'll give you the feedback. Now, additional resources, we do our best to give you as much education around entering our awards as possible. We are here to talk to, we are here for questions. You know, no question is ever too silly. We will always do our best to get back to you if you email us within 24 hours, customer service thing again, unless it's over a weekend. Denise has got a great book called Winner, and that takes you through the award entry process. And I also have a podcast, which is 5 years old. And the podcast is interviews. I mean, the first couple of episodes, I mean, we're 200 episodes in nearly now, but the first couple of episodes are around evidence and award entries and lots of stuff that we've talked about today. but I have interviewed hundreds of people who've won not just our awards, but it could be any award, and the difference it's made to their business and their thought process behind their entry, their business, what they've done with their business. And I've also interviewed other award organisers who I believe run reputable awards, and judges, sponsors as well. So that is a really good resource to go and have a listen to that. It's on all of the podcast platforms called Business Awards Show. So let me stop sharing, and while I check through the questions, Denise, do you want to add anything to anything I've said?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get myself on camera. Lovely to see everybody. Yeah, it's really interesting points as a entrant, as a prior winner, as a judge and a sponsor. I would just say these are wonderful awards. They are so empowering. They are such a lovely community. And being part of it is not a one ticket. You actually are part of a community that keeps on giving and supporting one another. So please do consider entering if you've not done so thus far. Um, don't leave it till last minute. Do put in your evidence and quantify your evidence. And as Debbie kindly says, I've literally, as in literally this morning, finished my draft two of my edition two of my book Winner. And I've built in a lot more content this time with a lot more feedback from winners, from judges, from award organisers, and about my Winner AI tool. So AI definitely can help you, but it is a tool. Like if you were briefing another person, so don't expect it to do all the work for you, but it is hugely powerful. So I would say put yourself in the best position to be able to win. If you don't win, you can still have a fabulous night. And actually, if you make it as a finalist, you will eventually be a winner because you'll be a silver winner. So there is no losing involved in this in any way, but you put the effort in. So just take the time to do it properly.
Thank you, Denise. So Tina's asking, can you enter if you cannot attend the awards event? The answer is yes. But I would say to you that the biggest benefit is actually being there on the night, being able to collect your award, having those photos, having the networking opportunity. However, I appreciate that for some people, being in a room of 300 or 400 people is horrible thought. It's intimidating. It's not what you want to do. And also for some people, it might not be possible. And again, these are properly judged awards. And so therefore, I get really irritated where I see awards that say you get disqualified if you don't buy a ticket to the final. How is that? If you can have a proper judging process, that's ridiculous. So no, we don't disqualify you. You can purchase your award. Um, yes, Tina, that's what I mean. You might have work going on. So you can purchase the award again, no obligation to do it. It's a small fee for the award to be posted out to you afterwards. We don't send them out, obviously, till after the night. Um, and you get a copy of the program as well, and your details are still in the program. Everything's the same. Um, you can send somebody else on your behalf as well. We have that happens quite frequently. But I'm all for fairness, and things crop up in life, and you might have full intentions of coming when you enter, and then you get selected, and then life throws a curveball and you can't make it. Denise has been there where we have still given gold awards to people who weren't there that night. And even last year, we had a special recognition award, which I was going to talk to you about now. And she couldn't make it on the night, but we decided we would still read out her nomination for special recognition. And she was still celebrated, even though she couldn't actually be in the room. We do try and broadcast the awards on Facebook, and it has worked for the last few years, but I don't pay extra for a live feed. We do it through our equipment that we have. So I never want to say to people that that is definitely going to happen. We try and make it happen, but it's not a guarantee. But we do post throughout the evening as well of each category. So that brings me on to the Special Recognition Award. There isn't a category to enter that. That is looked at through all of the scoring that comes out, all of the comments made by the judges, um, and we pick maybe between 3 and 5 people to be recognised for significant contributions they may have made. It can be for a variety of reasons. And it's always a lovely award to have, actually, because it's kind of like the pinnacle award, really, to be specially recognised. Um, so we've got hopefully a few of those in the making for our awards this year. So that kind of brings me to the end. Has anybody got any questions? You can come off of mute if you want to, or put anything in the chat. Anything you're not sure of? You're all very quiet. It's all a bit weird when you talk to a blank screen of people. So I'm going to take the recording off.